Okay, so in this lesson, I want to pick up where we left off. I showed you a lot of the page options in the last lesson on how to set up your page. Now we're going to continue here with the home page that we left off on, and I want to show you how to do a Fusion slider. Now going back to our example page, this right here is a Fusion slider. Okay, it has an image with the words with buttons. And so I think they look really great. I like the Fusion sliders a lot. And so in order to create those, going back to the edit page, basically you go over to, you have to do two things to create a Fusion slider. The first thing is you actually have to create the slider itself. So you go to Fusion slider and then add or edit sliders. And so you can see right here on the right hand side, these are all sliders that were created beforehand. But to create a new one, basically just name it something that you would be familiar with. And then as far as the slider size, 100% would be the width all the way across. And then as far as the height goes, obviously that's how tall it is. And so if you wanted to fill up the whole screen, you need to make it a little bit larger or smaller. And so there's different effects that you can select here. As I had mentioned before, you always want to check. You can check to see what it looks like, kind of experiment with it. I think doing the parallax scrolling effect is always neat, so you check that. A lot of these, whether or not you want navigation arrows, or if you have multiple sliders, you might want to check a few of these boxes. But once you're done and you've gone through these options and you've perfected it, you just go ahead and add slider, okay? And then once you do that, okay, the slider itself is just simply the structure of the slide, but it's not what you actually see on the slide. And so to do that, you go up here to add or edit slides under the Fusion slider. And so we'll go ahead and do that. And then just click up here, add new slide. So here is where you'll actually create the content of your slide. And so again, just go ahead and label it something that you'll remember. And you have a few options that you can do. You can do a image such as this one right here. Or what's really neat is you can actually create a slide with video. And I really like doing this option because you have an actual video, looped video happening here in the background. And so, you want to be careful that it's not too distracting, but I found a lot to be, to really be incredible, and they look great. So you have that option of doing either one. If you do, you're self-hosted, you just upload the right format. MP4 is the most common one right there. One thing I will tell you that if you self-host your video, what you have to do is you actually have to upload a separate image for mobile devices, because the video actually won't play on your mobile device, and so you just have to have an image that's maybe similar to it that's static. So that's the only drawback to it. However, if you're looking on a desktop, it looks really great. And so you want to go through these options. You have the options to mute it, autoplay, loop the video. Those are all selected. It's pretty self-explanatory right here. And of course, coming down here, you'll go to the heading area. And so this would be where you actually put the type. And so you have kind of a heading, like an H1 heading right there, and then you have something underneath there. All right. So the heading area, you'd put it right there, the size of the font that you want, of course, the color, any type of background area. And then the caption area would be the smaller text right there. And so again, you would customize that to how you like it. And then out here at the bottom, you have a few options of, you can actually have as far as links, you can either have buttons or the full slide. If you simply want just one button, all you have to do is actually just delete the text in one of these. If you want two buttons side by side, you just leave it as it is. And so you have to go through here to customize it. You actually have to know a little bit about coding. If you're going to do a link to something, you want to actually put it right between these parentheses and put the web address. And you can change, the size of the button, the shape, And again, you have to be a little bit familiar with the code here as far as how to change those exactly. You can just go right here. You can see some of the options as far as the buttons go. So once you're done with that, in order to associate this slide with the slider, all the sliders are right here. So the one that you just created will be over here on this side. So what you have to do is actually click on the slider, select it, and so it'll associate this slide with that slider, if that makes sense. Okay, once you do that, you want to hit publish. And then what you'll want to do is you want to go back. You want to go back to the edit page, and if that's the slider that you want to use, okay, what you'll do is you'll go all the way to the bottom here to Fusion Page Options. And if you want the slider on that particular page, what you'll do is you'll first select Fusion Slider. There's a couple other sliders that are a part of Avada, but you'll just pick Fusion Slider, and then you'll go ahead and pick the slider, the name of the slider. And then, of course, you choose where you want it on the page. And once you do that, and you hit update or preview changes, that slider will be there. And that's it. It's really, it's pretty easy to make the slider. The only thing that really tripped me up was the fact that you had to create a slider and then you had to create a separate slide and then associate the two. And so that took me initially, way back a few years ago, that took a little bit of trial and error to figure that out. But if you do it correctly, you can have an incredible slider, the Fusion slider, and it looks great, and it'll really enhance the look of your page.